There was a so-called independent commission of inquiry on the Kosovo bombing led by a very respected South African jurist, Justice Goldstone. And they concluded that the bombing was, in their words, illegal but legitimate. Okay, illegal makes it a war crime. But they said it was legitimate because it was necessary to stop genocide. And then comes the usual inversion of the history. Actually, Justice Goldstone, who is a respectable person, later recognized that the atrocities came after the bombing and that they were furthermore the anticipated consequence of the bombing. He did recognize that in a lecture, Morgenthau lecture in New York a couple of years ago. But he said, well, nevertheless, we can take some comfort in the fact that Serbia was planning it anyway. And the proof that they were planning it is, guess what? Operation Horseshoe. Probable intelligence fabrication that was publicized after the bombing, so even if it was true, it wouldn't matter. And furthermore, even if it was true, it was a contingency plan. I mean, look, Israel has contingency plans to drive all the Palestinians out of the West Bank if there's a conflict. Does that mean that Iran has a right to bomb Israel? The U.S. has contingency plans to invade Canada. Okay, does that mean everybody has a right to bomb the United States? But for the herd of independent minds, it just doesn't matter. The bombing was because of our high values and our nobility, and it was to stop genocide. You say anything else, the torrent of vilification and abuse comes. But it's not just on this issue. It's on every issue. In fact, it's kind of striking that right at the same time that Western intellectuals were praising themselves for their magnificent humanitarianism, much worse atrocities were going on right across the border in Turkey. That's inside NATO, not at the borders of NATO. They were saying, how can we allow this at the borders of NATO? Yeah. How about inside NATO, where Turkey was had driven probably several million Kurds out of their homes, destroyed about 3,500 villages, laid waste to the whole place, every conceivable form of torture and massacre that you can imagine, killed nobody knows how many people. We don't count our victims, tens of thousands of people. How were they able to do it? The reason is because they were getting 80% of their arms from Clinton. That was not reported in the West. And right in the midst of all of this, how can we tolerate a couple of thousand people being killed in Kosovo, mixed guerrillas? And there were lamentations about what's going on right across NATO's border. Not a word about the much worse things going on inside NATO's border, thanks to the massive flow of arms from the United States. And that's only one case. Comparable things were going on all over, with the U.S. and Britain supporting them. Much worse.